Welcome to the road to $1 million, and let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 1 day time frame for Bitcoin, because yesterday we saw a massive pump to the upside and I was able to capitalize on this with a 50x long position. So very happy with that trade. Now let's move on to this analysis, because we are seeing some interesting stuff today, guys. We are actually breaking this descending trend line in the RSI momentum indicator, so far not falling below it yet. Now, as I've covered on the channel over and over again, if we start breaking this trend line and getting daily candle closes above, I will be looking for another move into overbought territory for Bitcoin. So potentially we are looking down the barrel of another massive pump to the upside for Bitcoin. However, keep in mind that we have now broken through this previous area of resistance, now potentially about to flip it into a level of support. So this potential level of support is sitting from 116.5 all the way down to 115.5K. And like I said, with this RSI momentum indicator as well, so long as we keep closing candles above, we are likely heading into overbought territory soon after that as well on this daily time frame. Therefore, all that is simply left to do for Bitcoin is basically just hold above this critical level of support. Of course, if we break down below here, that will be a warning signal in the short term, so be on the lookout for that. But overall, for now, we are still holding above. Keep an eye on this big area of resistance to the upside as well. This is already sitting from 119K up to 120K in the Bitcoin price. And something I will show you a bit later on in this video as well, there is massive liquidity to the upside for Bitcoin. So potentially we are coming to hunt all of these short positions and punish the bears for shorting Bitcoin in a bull market. Now keep in mind that all of that basically goes out the window as soon as we break down below this critical level of support, because that will be a warning signal in the short term. Now, if we're speaking about potential warning signals here, let's take a look at this 4-hour time frame, because I want to help you guys avoid a very simple mistake that I see a lot of people make, which is like they will look at this trend here, they will just draw a trend line like this and say, okay, well, the thing is bullish, we are just going to pump to the upside. So basically the mistake that they are making is they're looking at the most optimistic trend line here and saying, yeah, well, we broke the downtrend, so now we are going higher from here, while completely ignoring this big area of resistance above, right? So typically what I like to do is that I look at both trend lines. So in this case here, this is much more of a short-term trend line, which you could be looking at if you're trading on like the 2-hour or 1-hour time frame, 30 minutes potentially even. Like then it makes sense on these lower time frames to see, okay, we are breaking this area of resistance. We will probably get some kind of short-term move to the upside after that into the next area of resistance. But if we are looking at this 4-hour time frame, we need to break this descending box of resistance, which currently is sitting at about 118.5K, this 2-hour time frame. And this is exactly what I hope to see. We broke through this Fibonacci golden pocket without being in extreme overbought conditions. So what we can look for on this 2-hour time frame, guys, is to basically hold above this descending trend line, which is currently sitting at about 116K, but we can also keep an eye on this 116.2K level for the Fibonacci golden pocket. In the short term, breaking down below that descending trend line is a big warning signal, because that would look like some kind of failed breakout. For now, this is still looking fine on the 2-hour time frame. It is not extremely bullish or extremely bearish. If we start breaking above these previous highs at 117.4K, likely we will get another move to the upside, potentially in that big pocket of resistance that I showed you on the 1-day time frame. Now, if we take a look at this 1-hour time frame, here we can see a symmetrical triangle breakout, which has already hit the price target. I don't know if I actually shared this in yesterday's video or not, so I'm sorry about that if I forgot to include it in the video. But either way, right now on this 1-hour time frame, we are seeing a confirmed bearish divergence in the charts, which typically points towards us getting a break from all of this bullish price action in the immediate short term. Usually this plays out either in the form of some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bearish momentum over the next 24 hours or so. Now, this already confirmed about 12 hours ago or so. I couldn't upload last night because there was a power outage here in Thailand where I'm staying. But regardless, this is now halfway through basically playing out. It is a bit of a warning signal here in the immediate short term. But overall, like I said, on this 2 hour time frame, I'm not seeing any huge warning signals just yet. So I'm not here to be extremely alarmist on Bitcoin or anything. So before I move on to this Bitcoin liquidation heat map, guys, let me quickly summarize everything that I've just talked about. On the lower time frames, we need to break this critical area of resistance at about 118.5k. The 2 hour time frame is looking relatively neutral to maybe slightly bullish for breaking this descending trend line. But as you can see on this 1 hour time frame with this bearish divergence, it can still take a little bit of time of potentially even some bearish price action before we actually end up finding that level of support, and then we can start looking for a move to the upside for Bitcoin once again. On the 1 day time frame, I am about to flip bullish on Bitcoin, but I just need to see a little bit more confirmation that we are actually finding support here and seeing some kind of strong bounce off of this, breaking these previous highs, because until then, it is still completely possible that Bitcoin literally just rolls over and dies, especially with this confirmed bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, but yesterday I was talking about this rising wedge pattern on the weekly time frame in combination with a bearish divergence, and I was basically asking like, hey, why is no one talking about this? Because if this thing ends up breaking down, guys, it literally has a price target of 83k in the Bitcoin price. Now, does that mean that right now I'm like turbo bearish on Bitcoin, shorting with my entire portfolio? No, I'm not. But if we start breaking down below this critical level at about 113k with weekly candle closes, then we have to entertain the idea that it is over for Bitcoin and that we are actually getting into a bear market here, maybe somewhat similar to this previous cycle top for Bitcoin. So for now, it is very early to be talking about that, but we should not ignore the potential warning signals that we have here. Now, if we start breaking these previous highs, we invalidate this bearish divergence, then we can be looking for another massive move to the upside, potentially even up to the high of this ascending channel at like 130k or something. But so long as this pattern is not invalidated, then I have to say, guys, that this is still completely on the table in the case that we start breaking down below these critical levels of support. Okay, now with the technical analysis out of the way, let's just quickly go through this Bitcoin liquidation heat map as well as the Bitcoin ETF flow tables. So if we take a look at this 3-day time frame, there's upside liquidity at 117.7k. However, we also have a bunch of liquidity to the downside after we got this big pump to the upside on the lower time frames. The biggest pocket here is sitting at about 115.5k, but there's also some around 114k in the Bitcoin price. So if we start breaking those levels of support on the lower time frames, like for example that 2-hour time frame that I showed you, then you could be looking for a grab of this liquidity down here. Either way, if I zoom out to this higher time frame though, the 2-week time frame, here we can see that we have massive liquidity to the upside, sitting at around 120k, which, as I said at the start of the video, that's this right here. So if we find support for Bitcoin on this daily time frame inside this big level of support, then we could be looking for a move up to this level of resistance in order to take out a bunch of liquidity there. Moving on to the Bitcoin ETF flow tables. Yesterday, we saw a massive inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs of close to $300 million in a single day of trading. Most of that coming into the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. So potentially these Bitcoin ETF investors are flipping bullish on Bitcoin once again. We saw a couple days of actually huge outflows. However, the last 2 days, it has stabilized a bit. So let's take a look at this once again tomorrow to confirm if the Bitcoin ETF investors are indeed bullish or if they are just flip-flopping on Bitcoin. Now, before I close off today, guys, make sure you go and follow me on X, because I am about to launch something that is absolutely huge that I think you guys are really going to like. And let me be very clear, I'm not selling you anything. I'm not going to charge you money. I'm absolutely not launching a meme coin either. I am genuinely building something that is going to benefit all of you guys. So if you want to hear that first, then make sure you follow me on X with notifications on. Either way, this has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.